I used to be a Weird Warriors kid. Now I'm a Weird Warriors adult. Each week I'm discussing a chapter of the iconic books by Aaron Hunter. My name is Charlie, and that cat that you might be able to hear meowing in the background is Lucky. And in today's episode, I will be talking about Prophecies Begin, Book 1, Into the Wild, Chapter 23. Join me on this adventure into the world of warrior cats. A quick reminder that if you'd like access to the comment section, as well as extended spoiler versions of each episode and some bonus content here and there, then you can subscribe on Substack for just $5 a month. Now on with the episode. The chapter art for chapter 23 is a cat looking directly at the viewer through some leaves. And right off the bat, Firepaw can tell there were several cats in the patrol, though he can't recognize their individual scents through the earthy bog odors, but he knows it's ThunderClan. Now, this is a small big deal, if that, because in the previous chapter I said I never thought of ShadowClan as a bog, but right here it describes it as a bog. So I'm going to Google bog to look at images of it and see if that's what I pictured ShadowClan to be, just without realizing that that is what a bog is. So bog, let's look at Google images for that. Okay, see, no, oh gosh, okay, wait. Okay, I'm not going to show it, but trigger warning, if you do look up bog on Google Images, there's something a little disturbing that pops up. So I'm just going to show the actual nature images that I was looking for, which is not how I pictured ShadowClan, because it's very, very swampy, very wet. Like, I don't know the difference between a wetland, a swamp, a bog, all these different terms, but it is a land that is wet, that looks like cats wouldn't even be able to walk across it. So maybe in some areas of ShadowClan it's more deep water than others, but yeah, this is blowing my mind because I've always associated RiverClan as being the only like water associated clan, but we've learned in this book ThunderClan has a stream running through it that they can catch fish from and walk through and probably even swim in when it's high enough, though they still don't voluntarily swim in it, at least not in this book. And ShadowClan is a bog. So it's probably covered in water. Like, that's what a bog is. So, I don't know. I'm just being surprised. You relearn something new every day, I guess. But anyway, he hears the patrol race past, and Greypaw asks, are we really going to try to rescue these kids from ShadowClan on our own? Yellowfang says she might be able to find some help from inside ShadowClan. Not all the cats support Broken Star. Now I completely forgot about this as well. I mean, a lot about how this book ends was foggy to me, but especially that they got help from other ShadowClan cats. It does make sense, though, because when there's like a dictatorship and like fascism in general, there is naturally going to be resistance. People are going to get angry that you are oppressing them. So it makes sense. Yellowfang says when Broken Star became leader, he forced the elders to leave the security of the inner camp. They had to live on the boundary and hunt for themselves. That's just horrible. And I was thinking, why would he do that? That doesn't make sense. They're your own clan. But I quickly realized he probably just thought of them as more mouths to feed without being able to contribute to hunting the prey. But the thing is, they once were warriors and did contribute. Now's your time to pay them respect and take care of them. Like, it's quite ageist and ableist, I think, to just kick them out like that. And Firepaw says he thinks he could convince the ThunderClan patrol to help them. Now, when I read that, I was like, how and why would you do that? They're going to be so suspicious of you, of why you're in ShadowClan territory. Like, this story Blue Star said to cover for you was that you were going to get Coltsfoot to help with Brindleface's kids' cold or cough. So I feel like that could just throw another wrench into the whole situation, revealing himself. But that's not even Greypaw's concern. He says, but do you really trust Yellowfang to bring back help? And Yellowfang says, you must trust me. I will return. And Firepaw nods to Greypaw. But then once she leaves, Greypaw asks, have we done the right thing? And Firepaw says, I don't know. If we have, we are heroes and the kids are safe. If we are wrong, then we are as good as dead. Now this confuses me a little bit because is Firepaw really still doubting Yellowfang? I really feel like she proved herself when she saved the kits from Blackfoot earlier, but I don't know if it's Yellowfang that he's doubting. Maybe he's doubting himself. Maybe he's just doubting the situation in general. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell from this passage, but I think it is trying to imply that they're both uncertain about Yellowfang, but Firepaw is less uncertain than Greypaw about it, and he's more willing to, at least in front of Yellowfang, hide his suspicion of her. Because I think deep down he knows he can trust her. So Firepaw hurries to follow the patrol. The trail was easy to follow. Now, I'm wondering if by that he means they're scent, because if that's true, that would be inconsistent with the previous chapter where it was talking about how hard it is to track scents, or if it's referring to like them leaving physical, visible damage in the environment behind as they're just barreling through ShadowClan. But either way, up above, Silverpelt, or the Milky Way, glitters in the night sky, and the moon was rising, but its cold light couldn't pierce the mist. But once Firepaw is like right behind the patrol, he can finally smell them. He can smell White Storm, but not Tiger Claw. And when I read that, I was like, oh, thank goodness. I thought for sure Tiger Claw was going to be leading this patrol. And Tiger Claw is probably mad that Blue Star ordered him to stay back. And I'm glad White Storm is there. I knew when I read that he would not be happy to see Firepaw in ShadowClan territory. But I did have hope that maybe Firepaw would be able to reason with him at least. Then we find out that with White Storm are Darkstripe, yikes, Mousefur, Running Wind, and Willowpelt. Now I feel like we haven't really gotten to know any of these cats, except we know Darkstripe is rude and very loyal to Tiger Claw, and we know that White Storm is nice. But still, the idea of running into this patrol of ThunderClan cats who are very suspicious of Yellowfang up against Firepaw trying to defend Yellowfang is quite intimidating. White Storm growls, Firepaw, what are you doing here? Firepaw says, Blue Star sent me. She wanted me to find Yellowfang before, and White Storm interrupts him and says, Blue Star told me I might find a friend out here. Now I understand what she meant. Blue Star is a genius because she spoke mysteriously to White Storm before they went on this patrol, saying, you might find a friend out there, like on your mission. And it's like, it's very mysterious, so it doesn't expose her plan with Firepaw, but it could still help Firepaw and protect him if he does get caught. So it's just so smart. Blue Star is so smart. And then Firepaw asks if Tiger Claw is nearby, and White Storm looks at him curiously, saying Blue Star insisted that he stay behind to protect their own remaining kits. Now, the way White Storm looks at him curiously, I'm like, oh, White Storm has zero suspicion toward Tiger Claw. because he would react differently to Firepaw being worried about Tiger Claw if he was also worried about Tiger Claw. But no. And that's scary that none of the cats seem to be suspicious of Tiger Claw except Firepaw, Graypaw, and Ravenpaw. And Firepaw tells them the plan that he and Graypaw, who's waiting for them, like the plan to rescue the kits tonight. He says Yellowfang can lead them to ShadowClan camp. And of course, they get mad at him about having found Yellowfang. And Whitestorm says, the traitor's going to help rescue the kits she stole? And Firepaw understandably takes a deep breath to calm himself. I would too, Firepaw. He says Yellowfang didn't take them, nor did she murder Spotted Leaf. She wants to help us rescue our kits. And Whitestorm stares at him and blinks slowly and says, lead the way, Firepaw. And then there's a page break. Like, I'm just picturing this in a show. Like, that would be right before, I know we're in, like, streaming days, but that would be where the commercial break is. Although now streaming platforms are coming full circle and having ads. So maybe that is where they would put an ad break, although they kind of seem to be at random points throughout episodes and not like at points in the episodes that would make sense. Whitestorm agrees with Firepaw's plan, right? Now, I think part of that is because he trusts Bluestar, and Bluestar told him you might run into a friend. So Bluestar telling him this also gave Firepaw credibility in advance of him possibly being found. So if that was all planned out, that makes Bluestar even more of a genius. Like, wow. And I also wanted to note that with Whitestorm being the one in the patrol instead of Tiger Claw, as a writer, I'm taking notes because with that particular plot twist, though it is kind of a small plot twist, I think it's well done. Because I once learned that plot twists should be unexpected but still make sense. Like, if something is expected, then it doesn't surprise you. If it doesn't make sense, it confuses you. You want your reader to wonder things, but not to be confused. And you want them to be surprised, but not mad that they were surprised for the sake of surprise without respecting the established rules of the story. So Whitestorm being on the patrol instead of Tiger Claw is a good plot twist because I was not expecting Whitestorm to be on the patrol instead of Tiger Claw. But it does make sense that Bluestar would hold Tiger Claw back and send a more level-headed cat to possibly run into Firepaw. So they arrive back to Graypaw, who's pacing back and forth by the rotten tree, and Graypaw expresses his worry that she could have betrayed them. But Firepaw reassures them that Yellowfang will come back. And Yellowfang says, well said, young Firepaw. I'm really glad Yellowfang heard Firepaw say that because it's proving to her that he has faith in her, even when she's not around. And she appears from behind the tree and says, you're not the only one who can sneak up on someone. Remember the day we met? You were looking in the wrong direction that time too. I love Yellowfang. She is in her element in this moment. We're finally seeing some calm, cool, collected, confident Yellowfang. I love it. And then 3 other ShadowClan cats appear from behind the tree. And the 2 clans groups look at each other tensely. Most of the tension coming from ThunderClan's side. And a gray Tom named Ashfur says, we have come to help you, not to harm you. You have come for your kits. We will help you rescue them. Whitestorm asks, what's in it for you? And Ashfur explains that they want help getting rid of Broken Star and that they might not meet as much resistance as they think. Yellowfang also introduces the other 2 warriors, Nightpelt, a senior warrior before Ragged Star was killed, which that's just revealing that he was killed instead of just dying of old age or sickness or something. So I wonder who did that. And she also introduces Dawncloud, an elder queen. 2 of her kits died driving out WindClan. Now, saying that Dawncloud is an elder queen who had kits who recently died is making me wonder, did she have those kits in old age? And was it before she was driven out of ShadowClan camp? Or did she have the kits when she was younger? And kits doesn't just refer to baby cats, but it refers to like a cat's babies even once they've grown up. Kind of like humans will call their kid even when they're an adult, you know? So I don't know how old her kits are. Are they actual, like, very young kits being forced to be warriors and that's why they were killed in the battle? Or are they regular warrior age? And what is regular warrior age? And how old are you to be considered an elder cat? And that type of stuff. I don't know. But anyway, Dawncloud says she does not want to lose any more of her kits, which means she must have kits that are still alive. And Whitestorm admits, "You are clearly skilled warriors if you manage to creep up on us like that." But he wonders what their strategy should be and if they even stand a chance. And they explain that ShadowClan is very weak right now, but when Darkstripe asks then how have they been so strong against ThunderClan, they explain that Broken Star has a small inner circle of elite warriors protecting him. They would die for him, which just really sounds like familiar in current world events, how we have these dictators with very close inner political circles protecting them, even though they're war criminals or have committed horrible crimes against women and children. It's disgusting. But they also say a lot of the warriors that are outside of that inner circle are only following the orders because they're afraid, and that if they thought Broken Star could lose, they would turn on him. Now, Darkstripe criticizes them for not having good loyalty, but I would actually argue that blind loyalty is bad. You shouldn't always be loyal to someone just because you're loyal to them. You should be loyal to someone because you have a mutual trust and understanding and you agree on important things. And if they go against your fundamental morals, I don't think it's a betrayal for you to stop being loyal to them. Like, if anything, that's loyal to the original agreement, you know? They're the ones betraying that agreement. I don't know. There's a lot of moral questions being brought up in this story. But Yellowfang says, ShadowClan was not always like this. When Ragged Star was in charge, their strength came from following the warrior code, not from bloodlust. Whitestorm asks how Ragged Star died, saying there were many rumors about it, but Yellowfang says he was ambushed by a warrior patrol from another clan. And Whitestorm says, yes, that is what most cats seem to think. Firepaw wonders if there's any way of taking the kits without alerting the whole clan, but they say they're very closely guarded and that would not be possible. So Whitestorm says, then we must concentrate our attack on Broken Star and his inner guard. And Yellowfang suggests that she pretends to be brought in as a prisoner by the other ShadowClan cats that she's recruited. Probably with, she doesn't say this here, but probably with them claiming they're trying to prove their loyalty to Broken Star, only to shatter that once they've drawn out all of the elite warriors at the news of Yellowfang being back. Perfect for them to be attacked by the rest of these warriors. Whitestorm agrees to this plan, saying, very well, Yellowfang. Please lead the way to the ShadowClan camp. And that is the end of chapter 23. Oh my god, I just want to keep reading. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember that if you would like to access extra content related to the podcast, you can subscribe for just $5 a month. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching and or listening, and I will see you next week. This has been Into the World of Warrior Cat.